that you might want to ask, please prepare it and keep, and we would, of course, let you ask the questions later. For now, we'll just wait on our speakers to be ready, and then we can start. Just give us 2 minutes. You might want to ask 10 minutes, prepare it and keep, and we will, of course, let you ask the questions later. For now, we'll just wait on our speakers to be ready, and then we can start. Just give us 2 minutes. You might want to ask 10 minutes, prepare it and keep, and we will, of course, let you ask.
Okay, thank you so much for graciously giving me that time. Just to say to everyone that I'm on my YouTube page, so I'm also I'm live streaming this just to get the conversation going and out there.
Okay.
Yeah. So where do I start from? My name is Aisha Yesufu. I am an active Nigerian citizen. That's how I see myself. I'm not an activist. I know I keep correcting the thing all the time. People say, oh, activist. No, I am just an active Nigerian citizen. I am one person who got tired of being silent and who got tired of just being someone who didn't have a voice. On my 40th birthday, that was on the 12th of December, 12th of December 2013, I realized that I also was a problem of Nigeria. And how was I the problem of Nigeria? I was the problem of Nigeria by my silence, by not doing anything. I realized I was also the problem of Nigeria. I grew up a very angry teenager. I was very angry at the adults around me for doing nothing with all the bad governance that we had, the corruption that we had. I grew up poor. There were times I would go to school in the morning without breakfast, and coming back home, I wasn't expecting a lot. It was terrible. And sometimes when I see people try to romanticize poverty, it really gets me annoyed, because there's nothing romantic about poverty. Poverty deprives you of everything, even your basic human rights. You, as an adult today, I look back and see, okay, my parents and the people around them, and I realize that they were busy fighting for us to survive. They didn't have time to demand for their rights. They didn't have time to think about anything beyond just getting to survive by the day. So when you're talking to someone who is poor, who is extremely poor, about tomorrow, about their rights, about the next 4 years, they don't have the next 4 years. All they have is that particular day and how they're going to get through the day and be able to put food on the table of their families. And when they do that, it's such, for them, that's the achievement. That's their own activism. That's their own going out and making demands and being able to get all of that thing. So it is a luxury for one to be able to make demands and be in a position to actually begin to think of one's rights and also how to make demands on those rights. In Nigeria, when you're poor, you're faceless, nameless, and voiceless. And I got to a place where I got tired of being faceless, nameless, and voiceless. For me personally, the first things that I focused on was actually financial independence. Before, my husband will always say that there's an Aisha Yesufu before 2014 and Aisha Yesufu after 2014. I can tell you the Aisha Yesufu before 2014 didn't focus on Nigeria. I only focus on the people around me and what I can do to get myself out of the shackles of poverty and be able to empower those around me, my family, and all of that. So that's what up to today, a lot of people in Nigeria actually don't know them. A lot of events that happen in Nigeria, I didn't know they happened until when I got to that place where I had my financial independence. I knew I had my mouth. I could now talk. When you say 1, I would say 10. Before you say 11, I don't say 100 on a national level. Growing up, just to round up to say, I've always been one who is vocal. And as a 10-year-old child, I said to myself that the worst thing any human being can do to me is to kill me. And that it's not the worst thing anyways, because I'm going to die. So for me, in everything that I do, I always look at what's the worst case scenario, what's the worst thing that can happen, and we go at it. I think one of the things that that was quite remarkable with with the NSAS protest for me was how the young people were able to come together and just take it on. I've said it before repeatedly, and I'm going to repeat it right now again. I am not one of NSAS, how do they put it now, conveners. I did not convene NSAS. Yeah, I didn't. Honestly, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what NSAS was. When people were, I was like, what is SARS? What is NSAS? The first NSAS protest that I took part in was actually in 2017. And so that was the time that 2017 was the time I ever understood what was going on. When people say NSAS, what do they even mean by SARS? It took me time to realize, oh, okay, those policemen I normally see when I'm traveling back to my village in Edo State are actually, those are the people that are called SARS. I always look at them and say they look more like armed robbers than police, with the way they will start with their tattered jeans and they will stop someone on the way. And so for me, that was the first time I did hear about that. And I started, following closely what was happening. But with the 2020 protests, where Nigerians coming together, young Nigerians, being tired of being killed in their own country, being profiled, and they decided to speak out. And I was there. For me, it was all about moral support. And all throughout, it was the protest of the youth. In the words of my very good friend and sister, Florence Ozo, she said, the NSAS protest was a protest for survival. Unlike the Bring Back Our Girls protest and other protests that we had done that were protests of empathy, you find that most of the people that were at the protest ground were either they had been victims, or their family members or their loved ones were victims. So there was such emotions attached to it. You literally hear people talking and you're crying, you're feeling the tears. And so for me, it was just that moral support. All throughout, I was at the back, even the picture that went viral. To the end, if the police had not come out to try to sort of like start that they were going to shoot, I would never have come to the front. I would have stayed at the back, because I was like, this is a protest of the youth. They were the ones organizing it. They owned it. I'll soon round up quickly. They owned it. And so for me, it was just, I was just at the back. But at the moment that the police came out and they were going to shoot, that was when I came to the front. And I said, look, we have failed the Nigerian youth. We haven't done the right thing. Our generation haven't given them an enabling environment for them to thrive. And in spite of that, they have continued to find niches for themselves and survive. And yet you are profiling them because they have good cars, because they're earning money, and just killing them. And I was like, if you're going to shoot them, then put that bullet through me first. And that's how that picture was taken by someone I didn't even know at that time, and it went viral. But just to say that it was a protest that was organized by the youth, done by them. And for me, I am forever grateful to the Nigerian youth. And like I always say to the Nigerian government, they messed with the wrong generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I mean, you've managed to answer the first question about this. And for someone that marched with you in Abuja, I can attest to a lot of the things that you said. Example, not being part of the organizers. Of course, you weren't. You met us at Barnex, I think, and that's when you came down and joined the protest. So yes, we understand that. So actually, the first question we had for you was to tell us, what did it feel like to be part of a youth-led movement like NSAS? Because ideally, you have always participated in protests, which, as you say, are empathy protests. And some of them are usually led by older people, much more organized and all. How did it feel like to be part of this protest where you were not part of the organizers and it was youth-led, youth-focused? How did it feel to be part of it?
Okay. Thank you so much. So the first thing, just to give a brief overview again of the NSAS protest. So when the protests were called for 7th, 8th, 9th, 7th, Abuja, Lagos, there was protest that had started in Lagos. And then on the 8th, yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, that's 7th, 8th. Yeah, 7th on the 8th, there was another protest also. I was there that was done at the police headquarters. And then the one of, I think it was on the 8th now, the youth had come out, you guys had come out. I didn't even know, most of us didn't even know of that protest. And then you were tear gassed by the police, right? And so when that tear gas happened, they were attacked and tear gas by the police. Myself, Dr. Obi,
the first day.
Yeah, that was the first day. Myself, Dr. Obi, Maureen Kabrik, we all went to the IG of police and were like, why are you tear gassing the youth? They came out to protest. Why are you doing this to them? And so that was where on the second day, and they insisted in coming out. And so when I drove in, I think the meeting point was supposed to be at, what was this? Berger, yes, Berger. So by the time I drove down to Berger, I had missed, they had started going, and I kept posting, where are they, and I finally caught up with them, and we all marched there. But before I answered our question was to say that when we did all that marching with a lot of people, we got to Unity Fountain, and then there was, some people were like, okay, it's over, let's move on. Then the youth that were attacked the day before, they said they are not going anywhere. They must go to that IG police office, the police headquarters, that they were attacked the day before. So they had to go and meet them and say, oh yeah, you that had attacked me. Mine was to be there. So for me, that particular NSAS protest was not the first protest that had been that I did not organize. I've been to a lot of protests that I didn't organize. I'm just there. I think from like 2017, I had made a point that, look, I won't call for any protest, but where people call for protest and I see it's something that has to do with the nation, for the betterment of the nation, I'm going to be there to support. And so for me, it's always when I'm there as someone who is not an organizer, as someone who is participating, I just wait until the people who are participating to lead. What do you want to be done? And I have one, I don't even make, I don't answer, how do you put it, media. Like when media come to you, they always want to, I say, no, until and unless the people who are organizing it give me the permission to speak. If they don't give me the permission to speak, I don't speak. So for me, just being there was just, there wasn't any weight on my shoulder. Mine is to support, but the energy was very, how do I put it now, it's one that just gets at you. There was a lot of energy. There was a lot of passion. And I think I love that about the whole NSAS protest, as led by the youth. And there wasn't that, so there wasn't that fear. So there's something like experience. Sometimes experience can be a burden where certain things can go this way. So it wasn't there. Even sometimes you're trying to say, okay, look at this other direction. Don't always look at it from one direction. This had happened. So there was that fearlessness and just, going on. And I think it was something that was really, it was really amazing. But before NSAS protest, on the 1st of October, that same year, 2020, there was a protest that had happened where I had done a video where I said to Nigerians, look, Nigerians are like cowards. You stay at home, you don't come out. Many people we retweet online, but they will never show up. And just seeing Nigerian youth owning their space, coming out, being there, it was really amazing. And the fact that they were actually making demands and they were united in it. They knew what they wanted and they were focused on it was really a breath of fresh air. And just knowing that, yes, we are having those active citizens. Because one of the things I've said consistently in Nigeria is that Nigeria does not need more activists. Nigeria needs more active citizens, people who will take ownership and make their own demands, not that waiting for others to make the demands on their behalf. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. Thank you so much. Didam has joined us. I call him Moon because that's his stage name. So Moon, good evening and thank you for joining. Please introduce yourself and we can get on with the conversation. Moon was actually the organizer or the lead organizer for the NSAS protest in Kaduna. So Moon.
Hello, good evening. First of all, I also apologize for coming late for reasons beyond my control. Like Obiani just said, my name is Moon. Well, my real name or my government name is Didam Dunia. But yeah, like you said, I was part of the team that handled the logistics of the NSAS protests in Kaduna, and it's great to be here. Looking forward to sharing the story of how it went in Kaduna and lessons that we learned from it.
Okay, thank you for being nice with your introduction. Okay, so tell me, Moon, how and why did you become involved in organizing the NSAS protest? What inspired you or made you become interested in being part of the organizers?
Okay, so before the NSAS protests in Kaduna, so I'm from Southern Kaduna. A little bit of a backstory. I'm from Southern Kaduna. Before the NSAS protests, when my people were being, killed by headsmen and, constantly being attacked, I and a couple of my friends said, look, enough is enough. We have to protest. And unfortunately for us, our then governor said, oh, it's illegal to protest in Kaduna according to his law, which he deems is greater than that of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we staged a protest. First day, police came and said, oh, we can't gather. So we decided to turn it into like a walk. They said, oh, still we can't walk. If we want to do a protest, we have to get consent or a letter from the police, whatnot. So I said, okay, fine. I told my friends I was going to volunteer and take a letter to the commissioner of police myself. So I wrote the letter, went to the force headquarters in Kaduna, told them what I was here to do. So I was directed to I think the Deputy Commissioner of Police's office. We met, we spoke. They gave me an acknowledgement letter. They were even making jokes like, oh, make sure you people use masks, COVID and whatnot. I was like, yeah. So the day of the protest came, and what I saw, I couldn't believe. I've stayed in Kaduna basically all my life. I've witnessed the crisis, the riots, and the police presence there that day was like there was about to be a crazy riot. They were all there in riot gears, guns, tear gas, fully dressed, in masks and all. And I was confused because we just want to hold a peaceful protest to demand that adequate security is sent to Southern Kaduna. And you guys are here. Instead of you to go to Southern Kaduna, you guys are here. So when we came, I now saw the DPO of where I stay. He said, oh, unfortunately, we can't protest. I now brought out the acknowledgement, a copy of the acknowledgement letter. And I said, boy, I went to the office of the Commissioner of Police. I submitted this letter. This is an acknowledgement copy. And they said we could gather. They said orders from above, we can no longer gather, blah, blah, blah. This is that. They seized our protest materials. They said we couldn't gather. Long story short, we left. Sorry, I'm going to go to why I'm protesting. I'm just sharing this backstory so we get a clear picture. I went back home and I got a call from a friend I hadn't spoken to in a long time. He said, if it's possible, you need to get out of Kaduna. And so he sent me some chats, and apparently a classmate of his works in the office of the Commissioner of Police. When they were a classmate of his in the police school, works in the office of Commissioner of Police. They had, basically they held a meeting with some government officials, and they planned to arrest me and a friend of mine. And basically they said it was going to be like what happened to Dadiata. Once they take me, I'm out of Kaduna, nobody knows. So I didn't sleep at home that night. I had to go to my elder brother's place to stay, and had to reach out to Audu Mekori, who in turn reached out to Gloria Balasin, and then we found the way, to take me out of Abuja. I was out of Kaduna. I was out of Kaduna for months, and while the DSS were looking for me, and basically I had to stay offline, my phone switched off and everything. It was hell, but yeah, it happened. And then somehow, we found a way to resolve it and get target off my back. And then in October, before the NSAS protest started properly, so there's a guy called Richard Gora. He was killed by SARS in Kaduna. His story is he bought a second-hand phone. Unfortunately for him, the phone was stolen and sold to the person he bought the phone from. And so normal police tracking now, they called him that, they want to see him. They came to the house and took him. They said, they just want to interview him, just to know where he got the phone. And I think in the process of interviewing him, torture, he died. And They tried to find a way to cover it up. His mom came. They refused to release his body for the longest of time. Finally, when the mom was tired, they released the body, and she just said she doesn't want an autopsy. She doesn't want anything. She just wants to bury her son and, find peace. I heard about Richard's story. I and a late friend of mine, his name is Charles Dogo, he participated also in the protest. And Charles Dogo decided to go to look for Richard's family so we could talk to them and tell them that, okay, look, a protest is coming, and we plan to organize one in Kaduna, and we plan to, have Richard's brother, Richard's family come to speak and share his story so everyone can know that, okay, it's not just in the Lagos or in Lagos or in the South that these things happen. They also happen in Kaduna. So we tried to look for Richard's family, and believe me, it was something like in a movie. I went to the house first, where they said it was Richard's house. When I knocked, someone came out and I said, I introduced myself. I introduced my friend Charles and said, we're trying to reach out to Richard's family. And the person said, no, this is not the house, but he can give me someone's number so I could call. So he gave me Richard's brother's number, and then I called, and then he would direct us. You guys go here, go there, take this down, stop here. Would wait 5 minutes. He would call, leave there, go there. So eventually we met. He said he had to be sure it was not the police coming back trying to start trouble. So that's why he had to direct us to various places and monitor our movements to see that. And also he wanted to see if we would get frustrated and just leave or stop calling. But I was determined to meet up that day. We went in the evening, I think around 5. We didn't see him till almost 7:30 because we had to wait and go to different places. And then we told him, okay, this is what he wants. And then he shared the story of what happened to Richard. And, he couldn't hold himself. He's a grown man, a grown adult crying, remembering something that had happened years ago. So we told him that, okay, this is what is going to happen. This is the protest. We might be able to make enough noise about what happened to your brother. And so he agreed that he had to ask something. He said, many people have come to try to help us to get justice. And along the way, they left. And I said, to be honest, all I can do now is to amplify what has happened, because not many people know, who. And I had to show him tweets, people tweeting, people that have been victims of SARS brutality and whatnot. I had to show him, this is your brother's name, but nobody really knows his story. You understand? So we put out a tweet. We said, we're gathering here, and SARS. The protest, by the next day, I think that was when the protest started. So properly said, we're joining the protest. First, we decided to go to the front of the State House of Assembly's protest, but from there we took a march to a popular roundabout in Kaduna, where channels came. We were granting interviews. The police had to shut it down. Then the next day, we made a tweet, and then that was when, basically that's when the process kicked off, and it happened in Kaduna a couple of times. And that's why personally I decided to march, because of Richard and what happened to him, and also my experience with what's been happening, with my people. So that is why I decided to participate in the NSAS protest.
Thank you very much for that. And as someone who has also been a survivor of police brutality, I really commiserate with the Richard family. And I'm hoping that one day all of us will get justice from the Nigerian police and this entire government for their wickedness. Okay, so back to Aisha Yesufu. So I wanted to ask, in hindsight, what part of this movement, of the NSAS movement, do you think that we could have approached differently? And what would you recommend if we want to organize such protests again?
Looking back, when we talk about what part of the protest could have been done differently, on the part of the protesters, honestly, I can't see any. I can't see any. One of the things that we usually do in Nigeria is always to blame the victim. And Meanwhile, the perpetrator is allowed to continue what they're doing. There's a whole lot that I can say about on the part of the government, what they could have done differently. So let me just give an overview of the protests as they went on. Perhaps, like you said earlier, there might be some people who were not part of that protest or did not know what was happening in Nigeria at that time. Citizens had come out to protest. A protest is a constitutional right in our country, right? And it simply means that when one is protesting, it means that there is something that is happening that one doesn't like, and one wants the authority to solve it. So in doing that, it simply means that, yes, you have regards for the authority, you trust the authority, and you're going to them with their cries. You are assuming that they don't know what is happening or to you, and you're going to them with their cries to tell them this is what is happening. And that was what was done with the EndSARS protest. And you find a lot of young people coming together and making these demands. Were they making the demands in a peaceful manner? Yes. Did they carry any arms? No. What else could they have done? You understand? So citizens were protesting, the protests were going on, even as far as providing their own meal. Remember on that particular day, like the day at the headquarters where the police started, throwing tear gas and shooting at protesters, even the food that the protesters had bought, they shared it with the police. We're all in the sun from morning till night, and there were a lot of food that were provided, drinks and all of that. They shared it with the police. They picked up their own dirt. So what else could have been done? There were, so one of the things that I would take, where people talk about the fact that, there was no leadership. EndSARS protest was a leaderless movement in a conventional manner. It didn't mean that there were no leaders. You didn't have a vertical kind of leadership. What we had was an horizontal kind of leadership. And I think you're hearing my fellow speaker, who was one of those who were organizing the EndSARS in Kaduna. So when people talk about EndSARS being leaderless, no, that's not factual. It was the traditional kind of leadership where, it's one person or few people that are now seen as the head of the movement, and then they are telling everybody what to do. That didn't happen. People took ownership. So you have people doing different things. Is there someone who is speaking, is coming back? Obianuju, could you just mute a little bit? Thank you. So it was a horizontal kind of leadership. People were taking ownership, were doing things that they were supposed to do. So you had everyone was more or less like a leader. And within those leaders, it was leaders amongst leaders. There were some who were organizing the things that needed to be done. In terms of negotiation also, there was negotiation. The EndSARS protesters were negotiating. They were on the field negotiating. But the thing is that it wasn't the traditional kind of negotiation where, they will not pick a few people, 3, 4, 5 people, they will not enter the state house or the government house, and then they will negotiate with them before the people will not come out and say, everybody go home, we will tell you later what has been done. At the end of the day, you see all of that not happening. So I think with the EndSARS protest was the fact that indeed the Nigerian youth had looked at the protests that had happened before the attack and picked all the points they needed to note from the different protests, from the east, right from Occupy Nigeria down to Bring Back Our Girls movement and all of that. It's what are the things that can be done? And indeed, they were doing those things. So the 5 for 5, people say, there was nobody to talk to, but there was 5 for 5 demands, which was the protests were ongoing. The protests were ongoing, and they were still demanded. The protesters were at the negotiating table, and they were saying, this is our 5 for 5. These are the things that we want to be done. And even when those things were not being done, they went back again to give solution and said to the government, these are the things that you can do on this 5 for 5. But the government, of course, were looking at 1 or 2 leaders that they will now bring in, or few people, take them in there, close the door, and have all kind of things like you normally would see. And and then the protest just goes away, and it doesn't get to where it's supposed to be at. So for me, I would say really the Nigerian youth took their time in the whole of that protest. The learnings that should come was from the way that the Nigerian government handled the situation in terms of one, arresting protesters, attacking protesters, bringing in thugs. You saw thugs in police vehicles, thugs in military vehicles, thugs in government DSS vehicles being carried towards where protesters were to attack protesters, being armed to attack protesters. And while they were attacking protesters, the police would just stand there and do nothing. There were places where the protesters were even able to apprehend some of these thugs that were sent to attack them and hand them. I think that happened at Bega, in Abuja, also in Lagos and some other places. And when they hand them over to the police to do the needful, the police will refuse to arrest them. These are some of the things that we see, because even for me, being a member of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, there were also things that we had seen in all of that. So I think in a way, the heinous end that we saw, where the military will be used by the Nigerian government to kill harmless protesters who had nothing other than the flag and were singing the national anthem. That's a crime against humanity. It's not about what the protesters did. It is about the criminality of the Nigerian government that behaved like a terrorist and decided to terrorize and kill its own citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so Moon, the same question for you. Like, what would you have done differently? Even now that you have seen how the NCAS protest went and what it came to, what do you think that you would have changed, or how would you have engaged differently if there is any need for?
Okay, to be honest, like Madam Aisha said, there's basically nothing or not much you could have done differently on the side of the protesters. Can you
hear me?
Can you hear me?
His voice is quite low.
Can you hear me?
I can hear him, though his voice, if he increases the pitch, it will help.
Okay. Is it better now? Am I better? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
I can.
Okay, so like I was saying, on the side of protesters, we basically abided by every rule we could follow, being peaceful, being coordinated, with what we want and how we went about the protest. So let me share something very interesting. In Lagos, thugs were sent to disrupt things so it can be blamed on the protesters. In Kaduna, what we did when the police gathered in front of GT Bank Banner and were seizing our that what we did was to reach out thugs that we knew these are people. Some of these people we grew up with, some of these people, we call them in quotes senior men. They know us and they see us protesting. But there was no way anybody could pay them or tell them go and harm these people. They saw us as we grew up. They were thugs, yes, normally carry out electoral violence or whatever, but at this moment, the faces of the protesters are people that they know personally. And we went to them and said, see, this is what the police is doing to us. And they came in their numbers to stand while the police were firing in the air and all. They were standing and shouting. And that gave other people, like ginger to join in and come out because, see these people, they're there for us, they're with us. So in Kaduna, it was the other way around, where the people who, flipped the script in Lagos actually helped us in Kaduna. So personally, like I said, on the side of the protesters, I don't feel like there was anything we could have done better because we followed every possible rule that we could have followed. The government, to be honest, except you don't know the Nigerian government, they always say, would compromise or come to the table and discuss, but they always have a different motive. So it was not on us that what happened on the 20th of October happened, but rather on a government and a system that has always, that has vowed to never let the truth prevail. Basically, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, and I personally agree that there was little or nothing that we could have done to stop what happened, or even to change the outcome of NSAS. Even if I don't know what we would have done that would have changed it to make them change their mind entirely about attacking us or hitting us. So I totally agree with that. So for Aisha, I wanted to know, right? Looking back, of course, you say you do not have any regrets about participating in the NSAS protest. But if you are given the opportunity one more time, if young people in Nigeria decide to go out one more time right now and organize a similar movement, leaderless, like vertical leadership, be horizontal leadership, and normally I'll call it feminist leadership, because in feminist leadership, all of us are equal. So would you participate in such movement again? And if you won't, why?
Mm-hmm. So before I answer that question, just to say that I love the way Moon ended that his submission, where he said it was not on us, but on the government and the system. And I think those are words that are very important, because if one does not take care, before you know what's happening, you're being gaslighted, you're being conditioned. Like people say, oh, why did you people come out? Why did you do this? Why didn't you just? No, it's not about, like you said, it's not on us, it's not on them, it's on the government that didn't do the right thing. So the perpetrator, we must always be very clear in blaming the perpetrators for the things that they have done. For the question that you asked me, a few months ago, I was asked that question. I did a documentary, and I said when they asked me that question, I said absolutely yes, I'll be on the streets again. Then after I started reflecting on the question, and I'm asking myself, okay, am I going to be on the streets again if something like this is happening, or will I? So it didn't come with that absolutely yes. So I'm still going to answer that question on those bases. For me, I have, there are always stages in my life. Like I said earlier, when I turned 40, I decided that, yes, I'm going to have that voice. I'm going to be on the streets for the last almost a decade, because in the next few months, I'm going to turn 50. And I've been like, yes, doing that, making demands. Then now I'm asking myself, who the heck am I making demands on? Those charlatans in office? Those people that don't have head? Are they the ones that are making demands on? My focus now, it's more of focus on that activism, yes, but how do we dislodge these particular people in power? And that's why I think for as far back as from, was it 2018, I started thinking, okay, the real for me activism now, the real being an active citizen is how to ensure that we get people with competence, character, capacity into power, so that when I'm on the streets making demands, I know I'm making demands on people who get head, not be people who no get head, kind of a thing. Let me enter pidgin. Sometimes my pidgin, as an Edo woman, there's something I can explain more in pidgin that I can do in English. So that for me, it's where I am at, that no matter what it takes, and following I think as we go on the conversation, it will lead to that, following the NSAS protest, because part of the things, especially after the NSAS protest, was the fact that, oh, if you think you whatever, yes, go and change us, go politically, and which was what people did coming with the 2023 election, even though there was rigged, the election was rigged, and somebody stole the mandate and got its way in there. But I'm like, okay, fine. If 10 months, see what the citizens could do by just forming this politics that some people have felt that it's their own, it's their own enterprise, that they are the only ones who know how to do it. They are the master strategies and everything. We've seen that they don't have any strategy other than when it comes to violence and rigging. And just like what Moon said, and for me, that's the thing that has been playing in my head, like, okay, whatever election we are having next, how are we going to make it that violence, that machinery of violence that these corrupt politicians think they have, that they are always using to get themselves into office, how will it not be available for them? How is it going to be expensive that the people that they use for violence will not be willing tools for them to be used for violence? So it's not a straightforward question, but I know at the end of the day, for me, when it comes to issue of Nigeria and it's about Nigeria, definitely if it aligns with my values, I will be there. But for me right now, at the end of my mind, it's where is the government? Because as far as I'm concerned, and this is Aisha Yesufu speaking, anybody, whether NBC that is trying to get some social media bill, if you have anything, the host has nothing to do with this. This is Aisha Yesufu speaking. My address, you guys, everybody knows my address within the government, is that there is no government in Nigeria. It's an illegitimate government. So for me to be on the street, going to protest to an illegitimate government as it is right now, would be me sort of like confirming legitimacy on something that it's not legitimate. Because remember what I said earlier on, when you're protesting to someone, it simply means that you believe in that person, you believe in that government, that authority, and you're saying to them, I have a problem that I think that you can solve. I don't see myself in a place where I'm protesting to an illegitimate government. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a government that it's there, and I'm going to do anything within the ambits of the law that is constitutionally allowed to ensure that that government does not stay on, and I'm not mincing my words in any way. So that for me is where I find myself, that will I be on the streets like in that place? Yes, even though it was a corrupt government to 2020, an incompetent government, one that was inept and clueless, but it had legitimacy. But in a government right now that doesn't have legitimacy, me being on the street, I'm going to be on the street and making demands on it, I will feel it's a confirming legitimacy on it. So that's just the things that brought for me. With a legitimate government, absolutely yes. An illegitimate government, no. I would rather focus on what are the things, what are the ways to politically ensure that that protests happen. Because for me, I've realized that even the polling units for us in Nigeria today, the polling units are also protest grounds, and our PVC are our placards, and we must apply those things the way we go, whether it's whatever election that comes up at every moment, whether it's a local government election, whether it's a by-election or to state houses of assembly or to the National Assembly, I see them as my protest ground and doing everything I can to ensure that people with competence, character, capacity get into office, and as much as possible, the incompetent ones, the corrupt ones are thrown out of office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And while I ask Moon the same question, please, if you have any questions, either put it on the chat or raise your hand so you can be brought up to ask. So Moon, for you too, if given the opportunity, would you participate again in this movement? And why would you want to participate, or why won't you want to participate if you won't?
Okay, while I do agree with Aisha that this is an illegitimate government, I would definitely go out to protest, because for me, protesting is a symbol of dissent. To show you that even though I know, or rather I know that you're not meant to be there, but I'm still going to come out to protest and show you that, see, whatever is happening is wrong. And while protesting, if be it against police brutality in the future, or whatever in the future, it is also an avenue for me to also make the world see that, okay, I'm protesting against this thing. No, I'm not in support of this thing, and also come and see, because this government is an illegitimate one. They don't want to act. They don't want to give in to my demands or our demands. So for me, protest is basically a symbol of dissent, to say, okay, I'm not with you guys. I don't believe in what you guys are doing, and yeah, and then also it's a form for me to peacefully resist whatever policies or whatever it is on the table at that moment. So definitely I'll come out to protest, because to be honest, I still have a hole in my heart. I feel like I failed Richard's family, and I don't know how or when that hole is going to be closed up or filled up. But truth be told, I feel every time I think about NSAS, while generally the protest wasn't a failure, to me, I personally feel like I failed Richard and his family, because yes, we brought visibility to his case, but what next? What happened? People know, but still they don't have closure. And no matter how long it takes, for me, it is part of my life's goal to, because we have the name of the police officer that's actually carried out the torturing and everything. it's my life goal to chase it. Why we didn't put it out there is because Richard's brother didn't want a target on his back or anybody in his family. So we sought out other ways, thinking, if we brought enough visibility and the government saw, they would want to engage, and then we'll tell them, okay, this is the person, and they carry out investigations. But I guess we had too much hope. But on the question you asked, yes, I'm definitely going to come out to protest every day or anytime there's a protest.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, as an ardent believer in name and shame, I do not believe in protecting people. And yes, but I understand where you're coming from, especially given as the family was scared. For my family, we were also scared for a long time. We lived in the perpetual fear of James Nwafo and his ability to kill anybody who had a dissenting opinion about him, until I decided that I was done with living in fear. And in the words of my sister Aisha, she would say, all death, not death. So I felt like, what's the worst that can happen? And I named and shamed him. To an extent, it brought some level of justice. But, like you said, and like everybody says, NSAS is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So we are still pursuing, trying our best to get justice in any form, in the right form, actually, because if we say in any form, it would mean we would accept it, the justice, sorry. But then the worst part is that the Nigerian police and the Nigerian government would always refuse to even acknowledge the fact that they are wrong and they have hurt people, and they should make amends for it. And that's one of the things that I hate most about the Nigerian system. The very fact that people believe that when they acknowledge they are wrong, they are weak. But acknowledging you're wrong is a sign of strength. And it's a shame that they do not accept or appreciate that way of exhibiting strength. Okay, so while we wait for the speakers, people who have questions to request for the mic, I would like to ask you, right, what hopes do you have, known you, for the future of Nigeria as a result of this NSAS protest and its legacy? Do you have any hope? Does the NSAS protest give you any form of hope? When you reflect on it, do you think that it signifies any form of chance of redemption for Nigeria and Africa?
Okay, so I have hope in the sense that I've seen what we, the youth, can achieve when we decide to stand together. But then, another question I have is, what would be that thing that will push us to the point that we got to at NSAS to decide to come together again and say, see, look, enough is enough? What is that thing? Because, I mean, clearly things have happened after NSAS, and we still, didn't gather or try to make a stand the way we did during NSAS. Maybe because we still have this, nothing happened in quotes during NSAS, or things are still the same, police are still brutalizing people. But yeah, I have hope in the sense that I know that a united Nigerian youth is one of the most unstoppable forces on the planet. But then, what would make us united? What would be that thing that would get us to that point to say, look, enough is enough? My hope is on the bench, like in football, waiting to be subbed in when that moment comes when we need to be together. For now, it's just chilling on the bench and, gathering momentum.
Okay. So for you, Aisha, do you think that the NSAS movement heralds any form of hope for Nigerian youths and Nigeria as a whole? And do you think that it might even have its the impact of this hope, does it impact on Africa?
Absolutely. For me, I think it's not a question of do I think that the NSAS movement will have an impact on Nigeria. It's one of the NSAS movement has already had an impact on Nigeria and Africa as a whole. And so I will take us on to say, at the end of the day, when, for example, they say when you're talking about policy making in the, what's the word I'm looking for now? The way it takes to make to come to policy making. There are processes here. Process is the word I'm looking for. There are processes towards policy making. The first one is awareness creation, and then you have, in terms of the policy formulation, to legitimize the policy evaluation, and so on and so forth. Protest is part of awareness creation. So when you have a problem, so a lot of people, the thing that we have is that because it is the most, it is the part that in a way it's fun. Let me put it. Because if you look at the NSAS protest, beyond the before the government started their attack and everything, it's fun, it's adrenaline driven. You're on the streets, like back. So there are things going on. Even when you bring in the police coming in, tear gas being thrown, you know, people feel that adrenaline, people feel that that push, that zest, and it's like, yes, let's do this. We are on it. We are over it. But many people tend to forget that it's a part of something. So when that happens, the other part where you get to the actual, that justice you're looking for, the things that you're looking for, it takes a lot of process, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of things going on. So the same thing also with nation building. Nation building is a long process. And so it's a marathon, like has been consistently said here. It's a marathon, and it's not a sprint. So people most times are so fixated on the issue of, protest. So if you are not on the streets, that means you're not doing anything. Protest, no, activism, whether it's advocacy, when it comes to advocacy, when it comes to getting issues, protest alone, it's not the way that things are being done. You can change systems, you can change things. And I think one of the things that the NSAS protest did, because like I said earlier, immediately after the NSAS protest, when it was violently shut down, there was a lot of mockery from the politicians. And you see them saying things like, oh, go and change us, yeah, go to the polls and all of that. And I think that gauntlet was thrown, and the Nigerian youth picked that up, and they were able to energize a lot of people to the extent that citizens all over the country were picked up to the extent there was a political movement. There are some people who don't want to say, okay, no, the answer, no, it's what bettered that whole thing to say, okay, now let's focus on governance, because at the end of the day, whatever you do, because if you don't focus on the issue of governance, if you don't fix governance, if you don't fix politics, what will happen is that they will keep bringing all sorts of problems that will make people will keep being on the streets. And so they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you march, and then you go on. Let's give them more problems for them to be marching on. Over time, they will get tired, because that's what they always said. That was what they also wanted to happen during NSAS, which didn't happen. And as usual, they brought in the violence. So there is already hope. Following that NSAS was when the whole issue of before the 2023 election, there was build up, where you find out Nigerian youth who hitherto had never bothered about politics. And I'm going to go digress, but it's related. First of all, for my generation and those older than us, we had seen military. I was 10 years old. When in 1983, when military came over, Buhari did a coup. So I knew from that age 10 to the first time I voted, I think I was 18 years old. That was in 1993. The first time of voting, and that election was cancelled. And so the military era continued up until 1998. There are some who had lived the era, although the era of the older military, there were some military I had lived in, but I was too young to know what was happening. But we knew what democracy was. We knew how people died for us to have this, even though it's not the democracy that we want to have, but people died for us to have this democracy. So just not be under a situation whereby you wake up in the morning, there's decree. At least, even if it's sham, the National Assembly must go through and say they are doing first reading, second reading, this, that, and all of that. But you wake up in the military era, there's just a decree. Somebody wakes up in the morning and then will give a law, and then it's a decree. No constitution, no National Assembly. You have the judiciary, of course, and the executive, which was the military, doing all what they wanted to do. You can't stand, you can't walk. We were like slaves in our own country. People, by 1998, people were even afraid to talk, to even speak the head of state's name, Sani Abacha, to even call that name. People, even in their own rooms, there was fear. So when the democracy came, there was a bit okay, people understood, they would try to, but you had a generation like my son, who was born in 1999, he was a few months, he was born in March. By March 30th, May 29th, I think that's April, less than 2 months, democracy had come into Nigeria. So he doesn't know anything about military. And there are a lot of Nigerian youth who are also on that table. And some of them were quite young, even when military was there. So they really didn't see government as anything, just moving on, doing their own thing, as long as they are making their own money. And you have a situation today where there's technology and they can use that. And one of the things with Nigerian youth, that they have technology at their hand, they have social media, they can crowdsource, they are intelligent, they are creative, and they're making so much money. So yes, government didn't matter until when NSAS happened, and then they came face to face with the brutality of government. Yes, government had been brutal. I mean, protesters had been killed during Occupy Nigeria, Bring Back Our Girls movement, protesters were attacked. When you talk about Shiites, protesters were being attacked, IPOB protesters were being attacked and killed also. But, it really people didn't get that in. I remember in 2017, when we had the Southern Kaduna protest at the Unity Fountain, the government sent in their police to come and disrupt the protest, and they started putting what do you call it now? Even military, their armored vehicles and everything at Unity Fountain, so that citizens will not protest. But so this on its own way sort of like brought a lot of the citizens who had hitherto not bothered about what was happening in the country in terms of governance to now realize the importance of governance. So there was a shift, and that shift now led to the issue of politics. So there was a political movement that came out of that, people being interested. People now say, okay, yes, we want to register for our PVC. We want to get that. People who for the first time, they were getting their PVCs and all of that. So I think that is a hope that is going on. One of the things, because of the way the election, the presidential election was rigged, a lot of people are sort of like losing hope and not seeing the things that are happening. When you are living history is extremely slow. And I'll give you an example. I always say to people, most of us, we normally say that, oh, Mandela spent 27 years in prison and he came out, and after when he came out, he became the president of South Africa. That's a sentence. You say that in less than 10 seconds. But do you know what is 27 years? It is 1 second becoming 1 minute, becoming 1 hour, becoming 1 day, becoming 1 week, becoming 1 month, becoming 1 year, becoming 10 years, a decade, and on and on and on. So it took a long time, but so that's the way nation building is, it's all about also. And then when things are happening, one of the things that we must always recognize and we must always be mindful of is to look at what are the little wins. What are the things that we change? What are the things that happen? Because if people only fix on one, okay, because of this had happened, you have not gotten this. Oh no, I can't do it again, I'll move on. No, good must be more tenacious than evil. What we have a lot of time is that people who are fighting for the right thing, or people who are fighting for justice or things to be done, they give up after one or two things. But the people who are doing evil, they never, ever give up. They constantly are giving double dose, triple dose of those evil. And so the people who are fighting also to counter those evil or fighting for the good must also continuously give triple and double. So yes, what are these things that have happened? Okay. Oof. Hello, Mark Noble. Could you please just mute a little bit? Thank you. So
I've muted him.
okay,
You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the thing also, so it's to now look at and say, after NSAS had happened, a lot of people were interested in politics. A lot of people.
Actually, you can go ahead now.
Oh, you have muted me. Okay, I think she has muted everyone. Okay, thank you. Yeah, you had muted me also, so I've just been able to unmute myself. So when that NSAS happened, so there were so much energy. People say, yes, we can do this. Yes, we'll go on to focus on politics. There are a lot of things that have changed. Why are people not saying that? There are people who are at the National Assembly today who wouldn't have been at the National Assembly if not for the fact that citizens decided they were going to participate, they're going to focus on politics. There are many people who are at different state houses of assembly today who would never have been there just for the fact that citizens decided they were going to participate in politics. There is a change, and I can say something categorically on this one, that since 1999 that Nigeria came back to democracy, the political class have never been as afraid of the people as they are right now. Forget all the hard face they tried to show, the poker face, because they saw something that was phenomenal. They saw citizens coming together. And so people must take that on. To say it's, yes, when we say it's not a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's actually not a sprint, it's a marathon. Sometimes you're sitting, you're looking at yourself, say, why am I doing this? Why am I not just going there and enjoying my life and just focusing on my life? Sometimes you're going to cry tears. Sometimes you're going to laugh. Sometimes you're going to be joyful. Sometimes you're going to be depressed. Sometimes you're going to be down. But the thing is that, you know, there is one little thing that is changing, that is shaking, and we must follow it. What has happened in different generations, because you find out that now, you find the younger generation sometimes say, oh, the older generation never did anything. They did. But the thing is that they did something and they got tired and they moved back. And so this is the time to say, if right now that you're on this, there's no moving back. Is to continue to focus on that building to get to the result that you want. Yes, you've not gotten the result now. Yeah, but yes, a whole lot can happen. So for me, I'm hopeful. And I'm not just hopeful, I'm amazed at the things that happen, because I have been one person who for the last 10 years, because on my 40th birthday, I don't even know what foolishness made me to say between myself and God that I was going to dedicate the next 40 years, if God gives me another 40 years, to Nigeria. If I had known, honestly, in hindsight, I would have just given 10 years or 15 years. In the next, I'll go and rest. But in my foolishness, I said to God, I'll give 40 years. And I can tell you that when Nigeria got to, within the last 1 year, I didn't know we could achieve it. I didn't know we can achieve it even within the next decade. So for those of us who saw where citizens were now saying, yes, we can, we have power, we are the owners of this country, we can decide and all that, it's such an amazing thing, because pre-2029, pre-2019, I mean, 2018, citizens didn't even believe they have power. So I am amazed at what the Nigerian people have been able to do, what the Nigerian youth have been able to do. Do not look at the fact that, oh, someone was able to do something that is illegal and get his way into that place to now shut down on all the achievements that had happened all over the country. And I mean all over the country. Some places had more numbers than others, but all over the country, Nigerians were united and say, okay, we will take over this power. So that power, don't lose it, because if there's anything, and I'll give example, I say there's going to be an election in Imo State, and you find one of the governor, the incumbent, coming out to say that, oh, this movement is this, is that, is that. You see, the tone is changing. So whether we like it or not, every aspect of our lives is politics. And so we must begin to play that politics. But what we must do is to begin to look and say, okay, what lessons can we learn? What are the things that we can do? Because we must have a situation whereby people with second jaws must be in politics. Otherwise, we continue to have either end SARS today or free these people, or no, this particular part of the country is under terrorist attack, that one is there, that one is there. You have to be able to bring in people that will give the good governance, because everything bears down to good governance. Bad governance is part of the problem that we have right now, that we give that good governance so that you don't have the need to be on the street to even make demand. I want to have sophisticated things to demand on. I'm tired of being on the street and demanding that they should allow people to live. That is a fundamental human right that nobody should be on the street demanding for. But in Nigeria, that's what we demand for. I'm tired of going to be saying that, oh, people had been kidnapped, and then government, somebody has to tell them that, oh, children have been kidnapped from school. They need to go and bring that. It's a constitutional right they have for them to be rescued. It is not a privilege. It's their right as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I sick and tired in where people were still having to be on the streets to say, look, hospitals are supposed to treat people when they have stab wounds or they have bullet wounds, and not say that they must go and get a police report. The people who are demanding for flowers, there are people who are demanding for trees. I would love to do that. I would love a lot of our problems to be solved so that we'll not be using sophisticated problems. I'll be looking at things like, oh, this tree should have rights, the rights of bees to have flowers to pollinate. There are people who are fighting for the rights of bees. There are people who are fighting animal rights. I'm still here fighting for human rights. We are still here fighting for human rights. That's not fair enough. And so we must begin to fix all of this. And I think for me, I'm very hopeful. And I'm amazed, I'm shocked that what the things that after NSAS, the way Nigerians have been able to bring themselves together and actually continue to work. And the thing that are for me is to say, don't give up on this. Don't allow the first obstacle to be what makes you give up. Because if you do that, the next generation that are going to be born are going to look at you and say, what did you do? Then you now have to be explaining to them, but we did NSAS. Look at what happened to NSAS. They will not say, and because there were a lot of people also in the older generation who had fought, who had done a lot of things, but the most thing that when they do all of this fighting is that they do not take it to politics and ensuring the people who get into governance are the people that should be there. Thank you so much. Hello? Oh my goodness, I hope sometimes my Twitter does that. It just goes off and then I'm speaking. I don't know that I'm no longer on the space, but I hope that's not what happened, but I will just try and go in there. So for me, I think it's really for citizens to understand that, look, they've done a lot. Nigerian citizens did a lot, and we must not forget that, and don't beat yourself up because there are some people who are criminal who decided to criminalize and just bring criminality into the whole thing. But it's to just keep going and keep ensuring that we actually get the right thing done. Okay, so I'm back on. I think I don't know whether there's a bit of issue. So I'm not hearing them, but I'll still go and check and see. That was one of the reasons why I wanted this to be live, so that I'll have this recorded here also. And I'm using my Zoom actually to have it here recorded. Because these things for me, they are very important. And it's like, you know, when you're, even in your life, when you're achieving something, when you hit a brick wall, if you just give up, you will actually, maybe you're almost close there, you will get there, you almost give up. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, host, for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I just wanted to ask Ms. Aisha Yesufu a question. I don't know if she can still hear me. If you can, it's an honor to be able to ask you this question. And thank you, host, for the space. Thank you for this topic. answers will remain in our minds for a long time to come. I agree that with all of the submissions that made, a lot of things were achieved. For the first time in a long time, Nigerians came together, in spite of our differences that we all know of. So I think it's a great thing. I think there's a lot of things we can take away from the NSAS movement. And like Aisha said, it's a journey. It's a marathon, and we're gonna just keep going at it. I salute everyone who played one part or the other, and specifically, I want to take time to salute Miss Aisha herself for the good work that she's doing. We see you, we acknowledge you, and I think that history will look back at this time and know who were the people that were actually involved in bringing about change in Nigeria. My question is about the police force, ma'am. So I was online some days ago, and a gentleman, an activist, he posted something on Twitter, and he was calling out the police force, and he actually tagged the public relations officer of the Lagos Command, and he laid out these complaints and the rights of the citizens, and very articulate, very well thought of, very well laid out. And when this man, this officer, when he was going to respond, he just wrote one line, like in Yoruba, like online loa, like you're just online. Like it's like saying you're just bragging because you're online. And you could see all of the response from people. And my question is, why does the police, why do our police officers see citizens as their enemy? Like what would they have taken him to read what that gentleman wrote and respond to him like a citizen, like a normal person? Or other countries, when citizens come, especially online, with a complaint, you will see the respect with which they treat that person in the way they respond. They will acknowledge the complaint, and then they will say something very polite, and okay, we hear you, we see you, we'll see what we can do. Boy, he was just rude, and he didn't even care. So my question to you is it something in the training? What is it about our police force that makes them to see citizens as the enemy, and like we're one side pitting against the other? And what can we do to help change that mindset? That is my question. Thank you.
So I sent in request for them to give me the mic. They haven't given me the mic. The host, I don't know that.
It's not on the call currently, so
I am on the call.
no one has the question, so let us compile the question. When she is back up there, she can answer.
I'm on the call. Can't they see me?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
I'm literally on the call. Okay.
Good evening,
so
everyone.
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave and come back again.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, everyone, for.
I can hear you.
You said?
Good evening, I can hear you.
Okay. Thanks for everyone for participating in this space, and I really so much appreciate for being part of this speech. So there is one thing that it always comes to my mind when it comes to Nigeria, the issue regarding to Nigerians and the politicians and the way they do things. Everybody, after the answers, the whole of it in, then the politicians said, if we know we have anything against them, then the only thing that we can do that we can change the narrative, we can make the change at the pool, which lead every one of us to the pool. And I'm very happy that we're able to show them that we have more power than any one of them in the public office. But there is one thing that baffles me right now regarding to the governance, regarding to the this administration, is about how the Labour Party candidate in the House of Rep and the Senate, and it's about the 13 million SUV that was recently purchased to every one of them. And it comes to my mind, like, if all the Labour candidates in the House, they really stood for the masses, because if they really stood for the masses, as they said, because to many of them, they were not really, I don't see many of them really stand for what they sell, but they were able to benefit from Peter Obi, from the credibility, from the movement, from the love people have for Peter Obi, which brought them to be in the House. So I'm trying to ask Mrs. Aisha if there is anything she can say or do about stopping them from collecting the SUV, because at least the radio program was yesterday, and someone was saying that it is constitutional right for all the members in the House for them to accept the SUV as other people from the other legislators from the other political party accepted it. Then it is no for them not to accept the SUV. So are they being compromised for them to collect the SUV, for them not to talk against it initially? And also, is it against the Nigerian Constitution for them to talk about the allowances? Because I see those as one of the reasons why many people were running into public office. Probably when they get there, they always want to get an advantage. And one thing about people in public office, one thing about politicians.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you summarize your question?
Okay. What I was trying to say, is there anything that Madam Aisha, or anything that you can say to all the Labour Party candidates in the House, because they stand against, because initially they stand against the corrupt government, which they should always stand as opposition and against whatever means that or other political party, other means of corruption.
Okay.
So
I think
that was what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so if we get your question, you are asking if the new SUV purchased for the House of Assembly members, if anything can be done to stop them from receiving. That's your question.
And talk against the allowance.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I think all the questions to Obiani. Obiani, I think you should take that. Obiani, on this call.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I've been on the call, but I have been requesting for the mic since. So the two questions. Let me start from the gentleman that asked the question on the police, and I will tell you one thing: the reason why the Nigerian police behave in the manner that they behave is impunity. There's nothing else, and it's because they feel that they can get away with it. And one of the things that Nigeria does is that over time we reward bad behavior and punish good behavior in Nigeria. So people just do things anyhow. The same gentleman that you see speak to a citizen in the manner that he has spoken to citizen if he's taken abroad to go and do something, because I do know sometimes our police, they are taken to other places with this, what do they call that, Interpol thing, whatever. He won't behave in such a certain manner. He will behave the way that they do in those countries. So it's all about impunity. We have a situation whereby the security agencies in our country, their allegiance is to the president and the ruling party rather than to Nigeria and the constitution. And I remember in the year 2015, I think that was either January 2015, thereabout. At a particular program, I had looked at the IG of police, and I asked him a question that why is it that the allegiance of the police is to the president and the ruling party rather than to the constitution and the Nigerian people. And as of that time, there was a particular book, I can't remember what they were doing, that he said they had launched on telling the police what to do and everything. I was like, but you need to act it. I say, if you begin to act it, and then police that do things that are not supposed to be done, they get punished by it, they can't continue to do it. I'll give you an example. A policeman will say to a citizen, I will kill you and nothing will happen. And guess what? On the 20th of October, 2020, that statement was actually shown to be right. Because what were citizens doing on that 20th of October, 2020? It was to come out and protest against police killings. And then the government came and killed them. So in other words, so that thing that police will always say to us, that, oh, they will kill you, nothing will happen. That means that is it. So it's that impunity that has led them to continue to do what they do. And I tell you today, if today that nonsense stops, they begin to prosecute, and some of them will even tell you that, oh yes, whatever happens, even if they show this thing that they are prosecuting, they will do that. They will normally change that. The worst thing that will happen, they will carry them to another place, and which we have seen. There have been reports of that actually happening. Maybe a policeman that has done something, either killed someone or something, or accused of that, before you know what's happening, they just change them in the place that they used to be. And so that's sort of like the punishment that they get, and they continue to do the things that they continue to do. So first of all, it's when that impunity, by the time we have a proper justice system, our judiciary has always been a problem, has given people leeway to continue to do anything that they want to do, and they feel they get there, they get away with it. By the time we begin to have these things in place, with everybody we fall into place. This behavior that you see is because of the impunity that it's allowed to happen. And that also must come from, we also have to look at issues of how our police people recruit. And there was something, there's actually a police recruitment going on, according to the police, even though some people have said that, oh, they've chosen who they want to choose, they are just being there. One of the things that the police did put out, which it's a fact, a lot of families, where families are guilty of that, is that they send the worst amongst their families to go and be in force, whether police, military, or whatever it is. So you see, if you have a bad egg in the family, say, oh, what job do you can? Oh, just go and put them in the police and all of that. In many countries, police are usually, before you even get to be a policeman or woman, you have to be one who has high character, lots of character, integrity, you're patriotic, you care for the people. What we have here are not people who care for the people, who are ready to solve crime. What we have are just people who are giving guns to just go and oppress people in the way that they can oppress them. So it's just that impunity, like I said earlier, and getting system that everything will fall into place. On the other question that was asked, there's nothing constitutional about collecting over 1 million naira worth of vehicle. There's nothing constitutional about it. If there's that should be unconstitutional. It's actually immoral. It's unethical, especially in a country today where people are suffering, people are dying, people are in poverty, people are going through so much. And here we have politicians who are just sharing the largesse of the country amongst them. So it's actually heinous. And the fact that the Labour Party members were voted to be different. They were not voted to go in there and become part of the pack. If it was for them to go in there and become part of the pack, then why would citizens have bothered and put their everything on the line? Because Nigerians actually put their lives on the line for the 2023 election. They put their lives, their properties, their everything on the line, and then people getting into the National Assembly, and then they now become one of the others. You don't hear their voice, you don't hear anything. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. That's not the way that it should be. And they must understand that if they continue on that path, that election is just 4 years. 4 years is not 40 years. Neither is it 400 years. I think when politicians get into office, they think that 4 years is 400 years. It will soon come. And by the time they come, it's to punish them. Unfortunately, in Nigeria today, with the kind of laws that we have, what you need to be able to recall a lawmaker is about 50% of the registered members of the vote, the register, right? And normally we know that register, for me personally, that register, it's not accurate. It's padded. It's a padded register coming from the era where politicians, where there were no anything to verify candidates. So there were people who have up to 20 PVCs. Some people have 40 PVCs. You will see something like Aisha Yesufu, Aisha Yusuf, Aisha Yusuf. They'll just alternate the names and everything and just produce PVCs. And then where they begin to say that, oh, you need 50% of that, where are you going to find those 50%? But as we look on, because law is dynamic, it keeps changing to reflect the situation. One of the things that we hope to see in a reformed electoral act will be that what should be used to recall somebody should be 50% of the votes that the person got, 50% of the number of the vote. So if you won your election by 500%, 500,000, 250,000 should be able to recall you. 50% should be able to say, we don't like this person, what he's doing anymore. When we get to that stage, it will give power. So it's going to take a long time because it is the lawmakers that are going to make this laws, and they won't like to make something that is against them. So that's the need where we need to get more people with competence, character, and capacity into office. But the thing also is citizens must hold this their lawmakers accountable, call them, speak to them. Who is your senator? Who is your House of Rep member? Do you have their number? Are they on social media? Are there their emails? There are some organizations who provide all of that. Bombard them with all of this. Tell them you are not happy with them collecting 100 and something thousand naira worth of vehicle. Meanwhile, 30,000 is what the minimum wage is. People are suffering. People can't buy fuel. People can't buy food. People are going. They are giving somebody 25,000 naira. They are doing big checks to give somebody 25,000 naira. Meanwhile, somebody is collecting 130 or is this 130 million, 160 million naira worth of vehicle. Divide by 25. How many people would that go around to the conditional cash transfer that they are saying? But at the end of the day is that whatever party that you come in, that is your business. The moment you get into office, you must be held accountable if you're not doing the right thing, and you must be held accountable. And if an election comes again, you will not be voted for. The citizens must take ownership and power, because by the time the politicians know that they're going to be punished during election, they'll now begin to sit up and do what is right for the people rather than what is right for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer, Aisha. So I think MC Noble, you've asked your question right. So we'll take INEC next.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right, INEC, so please ask your question.
Yeah, we're waiting for
everybody.
Okay.
Mine is not really a question, but I just have some few things to say in view of if you look back at where we are coming from, and the series of events that have happened in our country. A whole lot has changed as a result of the last NSAS movement, which was basically, in my own opinion, was very organic.
And I've had some people trying to mix up the NSAS movement with the obedient movement, looking at it from a political standpoint. And I beg to disagree completely, because what I've seen about Nigeria is that once Nigerians, basically human beings generally, when human beings are pushed to the wall, for the case of Nigeria, Nigeria's elasticity limit is very high. I think I'm proud to be a Nigerian. Everywhere I go, even when they want to talk to me, they know that I'm a Nigerian. They know that Nigerians are resilient people. I think I'm proud to be that. And I've seen this in our demonstrations. Although it looks like Nigerians are docile, but the day things are going to fall apart, I tell you, a lot of people are going to be surprised. Same way, the NSAS movement, which cuts across all regions, cuts across all tribes, because we all were suffering the same thing. The NSAS movement was an organic one. Same happened for the obedience movement. There are a whole lot of people who are not Labour Party members, but they are obedient. A lot of us could tell what the meaning of obedience means. Now, first and foremost, I want to quickly say, may the soul of the those who we lost during the NSAS period, may they continue to rest in peace, and they should also know that wherever they may be, their fight was not in vain. But here is my story. Few months before the NSAS movement started, I had a problem with my car. You know, it was on a Saturday, very early in the morning. I had a problem with my car, and I saw some policemen thinking that I was going to find safety. I pulled over my car there. You know, that I actually had a flat tire, and in the process of trying to fix the flat tire, the next thing I noticed, I spoke to the policeman, and before I knew what was happening, while I was busy loosening my tires, those policemen I met there, who allowed me to be there while they were conducting whatever search they were conducting, they left. Before I could look back, I didn't even know what was going on, and that place was not so safe. And the next thing I saw another set of policemen who came to me, and the next thing they just arrested me, you know. And when they arrested me, they took me to a police station. I was trying to ask what was going on. You know, they took me to the police station, and I got to the police station. The next thing they started telling me was, if I don't bail myself, if I don't bring out money, they were going to throw me in the cell. And I was like, wow, what happened? What have I done? I mean, there were some policemen here. I spoke to them. I wanted to change my tires. And they asked me I could go on. And the next thing I saw some other guys who were dressed like touts, and he took me to that police station. And one of them was just telling me, hey, man, just bring money, sort yourself out so that you can get out of this place. I told them I wasn't having any money. And the guy now said, well, you have an ATM card. This was just a few months before the NSAS movement started. He said, but you have your ATM. I said, yes. He said, okay, let's go to the ATM. Okay, I said, so how much do you guys want now? He said I should bring 10,000 naira. The 10,000 naira for what? You know, so eventually the guy now, I don't think.
Okay, so we would need it like, you know, time. Because of time, we are constrained with time. I know. So
okay. Let me just summarize in less than a minute. So the next thing what happened was the guy followed me to the ATM machine, and I got money and I gave the guy. And the guy left, and they took me back to where they picked me up from. And 2 hours later, in the process of me getting the money from the ATM machine, myself and the guy started talking, and I actually gave him my complimentary card. And he got to know who I was. Initially, he didn't know who I was. I gave him my complimentary card, and he put my complimentary card in his pocket and said he was going to give me a call someday. And the next thing I knew, 2 hours later, when I had finished fixing my car and I was about leaving, 2 hours later, I got some strange call. And I picked the call, and the guy said he was a doctor. I can't really remember his name. He said he was a medical doctor. And there was this guy who was knocked down by a hit-and-run driver and the guy passed on immediately, and they had brought his body to the hospital, and they want to throw him into the morgue, and the only thing they could see on him was my complimentary card and a handcuff, and the handcuff represented that he was a policeman, and the complimentary card represented that somebody must definitely know him, because they could not, there was no ID on him and all of that. So they called me and they begged me to help see if I could reach out to his family and see if I could call them to come and pick up his dead body. Well, I don't know him. The only place I know is the police station. I just walked into the police station and I met the DPO. I say, hey, the guy you guys brought in to come and extort money from me has been knocked down and he's dead. So they are asking you guys to come pick up his corpse. Sorry? Hello? Somebody saying something?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So by the time I was talking to the DPO was looking lost. A lot of them were just looking at me because they saw me. I created a scene for them that day, and they just could not imagine what was going on. In 2 hours, the guy was dead. And so few months, I left the place. Whatever they do with the guy, that's their problem. But few months later, this was when the eruption of the EndSARS thing started. And I always remember back what happened. And I can imagine so many people who will have gone through all of these. What happened October 2020, October 20th. I was caught up in that crossfire. And I can imagine what a whole lot of people have gone through. Now, with the recent situation in the country, you find out that we are still going to tread the same paths. I can tell us for free. Recently, we've had a series of situations whereby they are talking about uprising in terms of military takeover in African countries and all that. It's organic. You can see the citizens celebrating the military intervention in their politics. It's organic. It does not need to be orchestrated. That is the direction we are going to see things continue to go. As long as we continue to have institutions that are supposed to stand up for the people, that are supposed to protect citizens' rights, continue to fail and decay in their numbers. And the police is not an exception. And this is going to continue until there's going to be a revolt from the Nigerian people organically. Thank you for giving me time to speak. I yield the mic.
Thank you for that wonderful speech. So we'll be having, do you want to react to it or anything that he said, Aisha?
Well, honestly, it's just I didn't see the last part coming within 2 hours, and it's just really sad. And one of the things, like I meet a lot of police men and women who are like, you guys you never make demands for us and everything. I'm like, we make demands for you. When we're doing demands, you are the ones, attacking us and all of them. I always tell them how EndSARS protesters were so interested, even among the 5 demands of the EndSARS protesters. The fifth one was that what do you call it now? The salaries of the police should be increased, and with the whole lot of things that they don't understand that it's all about the same bad governance that citizens come out and they try to protest again. It's also part of the things that affect them, in the way of life. They don't see that. But there's this. And I just for me to just talk briefly of an inherent wickedness that sometimes that baffles me throughout that EndSARS protest. On the day that we went to that march, by the way, I don't think it would be fair for us to leave this place and for me not to talk about Obianuju's drama. I think the most scared. The most scared I was of that EndSARS protest, where my mind literally dropped, was after we had been tear gas, police had shot us and had walked out of the whole police this thing. Here was Obianuju running back and that she was going to get her bag, insisting, hey, I don't up to tomorrow. My heart is still in my mind when I think that she was alone, like going back, that her bag was in there where they had, I was like, you think if you go in there, we are going to see you again? Those people are mad, especially, when it comes to the cover of the night, just holding her. It took a lot for her to leave that bag and go. Honestly, the bravery of the EndSARS protesters, you guys don't even understand. I was in awe of all of you all. But having said that is to say, on that day, the first day of that protest where they had tear gas, they used their knives to cut one tire each of all the cars that were parked. My car was there, and although they took, it was when after I entered my car, I was driving, I realized it had been cut. The next day, the next day again, there was that protest where they had used their water cannon and everything. They used knives to cut two tires in every car, because we had parked again at I think that junction before Unity Fountain, for those who know Abuja. We had parked our cars and they used knife to cut two tires in every vehicle. How are people, for me, the thing is that how would a policeman that is supposed to, protect lives and properties, that is supposed to ensure, enforce law, carry a knife and just be cutting? And so it must take a kind of anger and hatred at people for you to actually, do those things. Up to tomorrow, that kind of a thing, it baffles me. But anyway, it's really a sad place where we find ourselves as citizens of this country. But one of the things that we must never give up, and all of these things, they are all interrelated to governance. When we are able to get governance right, it's not as if 100% they're going to go away, but they're going to be reduced to a minimum. When you have the rule of law, where the president and the plumber, they face the same rule of law, there will be a sort of sanity in the system, and we must never give up on achieving that, no matter how hard and how long it takes us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that recap about what happened at the first day of the protest. And thank you so much for your contribution, INEC. So we will take Uzamaka. Uzamaka, please, what's your question? And after Uzamaka, we will have Joseph.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I thank you all for this space, and also thank Ms. Aisha Yesufu for bravery and all she's been doing, because I'm a fan of us. I don't know, mine is not, I have a question to ask, but before then I would like to speak on the issue of the attitude of the police. I don't know if I can say something about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry for cutting it, but you have to keep it within 2 to 3 minutes so others can engage, and then we can close because time is over.
All right, so I would like to speak about the police issue. For me, I think it's a systemic problem in the sense that these institutions, to me, are already instruments in the hands of the politicians. And it extends even to the military. And you see they being a kind of being even the what is it called? Even in the media also, we see the way they want to also invade the media, even the judiciary system. They turn these things into instruments in their hands. And that is why these people tend to do what? They tend to obey them. They tend to do what they ask them to do. And also one of the instruments that I've seen that is being used in this country is fear. They tend to instigate fear on people. They put fear on people, which makes us not to do what we are supposed to do. And sad as it may be, for me, I think everything we are doing one day will boil down to revolution. That is my own opinion, because it seems as if Nigeria is not a country where peaceful protest works. And psychologically, it gets to a point where you push someone, and when you push someone against the wall, the person can no longer move. The next thing will be to retaliate, and that retaliation is what we see as revolution in the war. So that is my own contribution on that. And now, my question is, what is the plan? What is laid down, or what do we do in a situation where protest does not work? Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't have hope in the judiciary. Now, if it ends up that, okay, they play the same thing that they do, just like they did in the appeal court. Now, if it happens like that and we go into protest and we see the same thing that happened at NSAS happening again, what will be the next line of action? Just like Ms. Aisha said, if we tell the next generation that look at what we did, they will say, okay, after that, and then, so like she said, we have to take it into politics because our life is all about politics. We are political beings. That is what sociology will tell us. So the question is, what will be our next line of action if they try to instigate fear on us when they try to, okay, invade or take over the protest? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Aisha, do you want to react to that?
Okay. Thank you so much, Uzo Amaka. I think when he said Nigeria is not a country where peaceful protest works, that that strikes really deeply. And the thing is that sadly, where peaceful agitation is not allowed. So of course, you find the armed agitation and the one that it's not so peaceful going on. And that's what we have across Nigeria, lots of places across Nigeria where people take up arms against the country. And it's really so sad that Nigeria is always ready to negotiate with those who take arms against this country rather than with citizens who are coming out to peacefully protest. But the thing also is that whatever it's not done within the ambit of the law, normally it doesn't all go well, it doesn't end well, it doesn't go well. And so that's also the thing. No matter how hard it is, we must continue, we must strive, we must not become the people that we fight. We must continue on that. In terms of asking what the next line of action is, and I think a lot of people have asked me this question. Oh, what's going to happen? Oh, call for a protest, all this, all that. I will say to them, look, when the protests that will be all manner of protests will happen in Nigeria, whether you call it protest, whether a revolution, whatever it is, nobody is going to call for it. There won't be a date set aside, neither will be time, nor will the placards be made, nor will there be a color code. And it will be televised worldwide. Citizens will have to get to a place where they are tired, they are angry enough that they will be on the streets. We want the evidence. Even you, bros, you might come out. You too, you came out, because when people get to that place, it has to be organic. It's not something that you're going to be the one to call or one person to call or one. No, it's going to happen on its own. And sooner or later, the way things are going, we might get there. One of the biggest problem we have in Nigeria, there are two classes. We have the political class, the political rulers, and also the religious rulers. These have been the problem that we have in this country. And I will tell you why. We have a situation whereby the political class and the religious the political rulers and the religious rulers, they have a symbiotic relationship where they are both feeding off each other and helping each other. The political rulers need the religious rulers, and sometimes also the traditional rulers, but traditional rulers are not as strong as the role that the religious rulers play. They need so the political rulers need the religious rulers for them to keep the citizens submissive, docile, and not making demands on them. And that's why you see some malam somewhere will come out and tell you that, oh, protest is haram. Oh, so suddenly protest is haram? But during Jonathan, protest was not haram. It was okay to come out and protest during Jonathan, but it's not, it became haram when Buhari came into office. Or you see in another part of the country, they will say to you, oh, why are you bothering about making demands on government? Go and pray, go and sow a seed, go and get your own miracle. When you get your own miracle, then, hello, can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, we can hear
you. Okay, fantastic. Because a call was just coming in. And so they will say to you, oh, go and sow a seed, go and get your own miracle. They even tell you that you can get alert from heaven. There was a pastor the other time that was sending alarm to his people from heaven and all of that. So instead of holding government accountable, they tell you to go and pray for your miracle and get your own miracle. And when you get your own miracle, that's it. And so, of course, that selfishness, that selfish attitude when Nigerians feel that things that happen to other people cannot happen to them because they have prayed, because Nigerians happen to believe that they have the patent to prayers, and they forget that God will not do for us what he has given us the capacity to do for ourselves. You find people who are going to be on the streets, who are going to demonstrate, who are going to kill somebody because they say, oh, the person has insulted the prophet or has done this thing. They'll be on the street, they will kill that person. But here, when it comes to making demands for themselves, they're not going to do anything. They are sitting down and they are praying to God. So they fight for God and leave their own fight to God. So what it does is that the politicians, so with all of this, keeping the people's docile and submissive, they are not out there making demands on the citizens who make demands on them. The religious rulers, on the other hand, they need the political rulers to continue to give bad governance so that they can continue to sell cheap miracles. So how do you tell somebody, you see somebody will finish school and they're going to carry their NYC certificate, their school certificate, they'll go and meet one malam or one pastor or one dibia or one, who is sending me this thing? Sorry about that, please. Or they're going to call one dibia, one malam, or something like that, and tell that person, oh, bless my certificate, do this. Meanwhile, forgetting that, or they will tell somebody that, oh, the reason why you've not gotten a job is because there are principalities and powers, there are enemies in the village, there are genes, there are village people, your uncles, your this and that, they are causing you not to get job. Meanwhile, it is the government that is giving bad governance. They are making all sorts of reckless policies and reckless decisions on behalf of the people. The economy is contracting, the economy is not expanding. So jobs are going, businesses are closing down, companies are leaving the country, and so there are no businesses. More people are being thrown into the job market, and so there are no people to employ. That's the reason why you're not getting jobs. But here, so when you don't get those jobs, you'll be coming to them to go and get those prayers. You'll be coming to them for simple things that can be treated, that will be taken care of. So we have a big problem in that way. But as we go on, little by little, the scales are beginning to fall off the faces of the people, because, like I said earlier, God will not do for you what he has given you capacity for you to do for yourself. If you like, pray from morning to night, close the door and lock everywhere, and be in an empty room and be praying for jollof rice. You won't see it, or be praying for it. Won't fall from nowhere until you go out, either go and cook the food, go and look for it, go and order, you must do something for you to get it. The greatest miracle that we have is the one that the brain that God has given us. But in Nigeria, most people don't want to use their brain. They just want to sit down and say, oh, they are the ones that are the prayer warriors and all of that are fasting and doing all sorts of things. So we will get that place where citizens need to take that ownership. Until we get to that place, we'll continue to look at things happen. And I must tell you, when citizens get to that place where they're tired, where enough is enough, nobody is going to tell anybody that there's going to be a protest. Everybody will come, because everybody is pinching it. And part of the problem that we have is this, where people are stopgap for other people. So they are stopgap for government. So people are the ones who are paying people's bills, who are doing something. You see somebody will be out there defending bad governance, and then at the end of the day, he's coming to meet you to borrow money. Are you okay? He's coming to meet you to solve his problem. Are you okay? Are you freaking kidding me? There are some people that, when you talk about poverty, and this is what I talk about, for me, I don't miss what I tell people, I don't want to help anybody. I want people to not need my help. When there's good governance, you don't need people's help. If there's if there's good quality free education, primary, secondary level, you won't be looking for anybody to pay your children's school fees. If you have good healthcare system, you won't be needing anybody to pay a healthcare system for you. If you have good transport system, where even if you don't have a car, you'll be able to take yourself elsewhere. If you have good housing, affordable housing, a whole lot of things, but people will sit down, do nothing, defend the people who are eating their money, and then they will come to you and begin to put pressure on you. The worst that happens is that they begin to tell you, oh, you are accessible. Sometimes I tell people, call Call your House of Rep member, go and look for your governor, your president, whatever. Let them know that, you know, things are hard. They will say, oh, those ones are not accessible. You guys are the ones who are accessible. So because I'm accessible, you want to kill me? We must get to a place where citizens begin to understand the relationship between governance and their life. It's going to be tough love. This one that, oh, people want to, I understand people want to play government and they want to play God. They want to be this messiah spirit that they have. Well, good for them. One of the things that I know is that even God is not everything that we ask for that God gives us, and God demands loyalty from people. Government will demand for votes. Politicians will demand from votes from what they give. Then why do people just give things out without asking or making demands on people, and let people understand the consequences of their action, the relationship between governance and their lives? If citizens continue to play that stopgap for people, they won't understand the relationship between governance and their lives. And that's why people will just sit down and say that, oh, let's just vote anyhow. Or somebody will come and tell you that it doesn't matter whoever is president. No, it does matter who is president. It does matter who is governor. It does matter who is House of Rep member, who is everybody that is voted for. If it didn't matter, then let us all stay at home and not have anybody do any of those things. Governance is about the lives of people. And let me just round up to say this. There's one thing that citizens, Nigerians, I think, miss a lot. They think about activism. You see somebody will come and say to you, oh, you are an activist. Why are you dabbling in politics? Politics affect my life. Politics is everything. They can decide tomorrow, they can make a law that if somebody died, they should not bury the person. That will mean that if I die, they won't be able to bury me. That's politics. They can decide that, oh, everybody that is that have two eyes, they should lock them up, all up, if it's a law. No matter how obnoxious it is, until you remove it, it's still law. They will start locking everybody that has two eyes. So politics affects every other person. Activism and politics are supposed to be for the greater good. But the only difference is that the way in which politics is the way, a manner of delivery. Why people who are in advocacy, activism, active citizens, and all of that, why they make demand and say this is a problem, solve it. The people who are voted into office, who are the politicians, they see this, so they see the problem, and they are the ones who solve it. So it's supposed to be for the greater good. But in Nigeria, we've turned politics to something that, oh, it's supposed to be the benefit of the politicians that are going in. It's seen as a normal thing for people to go in and steal money and use people's money recklessly. Somebody is giving an appointment, before you know what's happening, the person is driving cars that you couldn't get. No, if you want to make business, go in. If you want to make money, go into business. Don't go into politics. Don't go into governance to go and make money. You can't be changing the best of cars, riding our people in government are the ones who are writing the latest cars that even we that were in business, before we can't even think of buying them. Before you buy them, you would have calculated how many trailers you will sell before you get the profit to buy. Somebody will just recall, oh, they were voted into office within how many months? They are already driving cars of 100 and something million. Ask the person, has he ever seen 100 and something million naira before? Did he use that car before? All the cars they have in their app, do they have up to that? No, because it's people's money. No, we must come to the realization that the way activism is for the greater good, that's the way politics is supposed to be for the greater good. And anybody who is not supplying towards that greater good is not supposed to be in that office in any way whatsoever. Thank you. Hello, host. I think Obianuju is not here, or she's here.
Okay, so Obianuju, I don't think she's here. I think she left because she's having network issues. Okay, so Uzuamaka.
No, that's the person that just spoke. I think it's Joseph. They did say after Uzuamaka, it was Joseph.
Okay. So Joseph, can I ask your question?
Oh, thank you very much for giving me the audience. And I want to say a good evening to everyone who's on the floor. I'm actually very happy. I think I've been able to hear Aisha speak today. I think I've actually been trying to see how I can get an audience with her. And I think my first question will actually be that, Aisha, I'm actually writing a book on NSAS and then the aftermath of NSAS in Nigeria. And I've actually been looking for most of the materials I've gotten are actually online materials, and I really need to speak to one of the key activists during the NSAS. And I'm actually putting a request to you whether it will be possible for me to have an audience with you in any way possible, just to ask you some questions so that I can have something to put down on my work. That's my first question. And the next one I actually have is more like a commentary on what you've actually said, because I think one of my favorite quotes I've actually gotten from, it's always in my head, is that Nigerians, we are too forgiving. Nigerians are very forgiving people. I actually cite instances. And then the next thing is that we celebrate corruption. When I was talking about quotes, there was this thing I saw on, I think I saw it, was it on Whether Funny Nigerian something, and they said that it's only in Nigeria that people celebrate corruption. Like a mom, a mother, a brother, and sister will actually he or she knows that the brother maybe is into, let's say, Yahoo, or maybe into scamming people and making money. And then suddenly the boy makes such a big amount of money, and then they take the boy to church and then they thank God. People celebrate corruption, people celebrate politicians who steal money in church. They bring this money to our churches, and then we are members of the church, we are members of a particular mosque, we are members of wherever, and then we know that this money they are giving in church is not their money, and then we celebrate them. We celebrate corruption. We celebrate when people steal things. We celebrate when people take things that do not belong to them. I do not know when this particular habit is going to stop, but I actually think that there's this ministry we actually had in Nigeria. I do not know whether it's still functioning. They called it ethics. Is it ethics and ethical reorientation? That was actually something very, if it was utilized in Nigeria, would have actually been to educate Nigerians on how to stampede corruption, on the things that we need to learn, on the things that we need to do, on things that we are not supposed to celebrate. Corruption. We can't celebrate corruption. We can't celebrate when people steal things, either politically or otherwise. It's not anywhere that we call it grace. It's not God. God cannot bless you to steal. God cannot bless you. It's if you go into political office and then you steal money, that's not blessing from God. For whatever reason, you are taking that money to church or to wherever, even if you are donating it, you are doing charity with it. It does not attract any blessing. It doesn't mean anything because you have stolen it. And we Nigerians, we are supposed to speak against things like this. I also want to suggest that the obedient movement should also create, I think maybe should actually be something not very politically oriented, maybe a platform or maybe frequent posts about some of these things that people need to learn. We need massive education. People need to learn that there's so many things that are not acceptable. The fact that the Senate president, who I think just a few months ago said, ordinary Nigerians. And we just came out on Twitter and we were just shouting. Everyone was shouting, we were shouting. And then it has died down. And then the next issue will come up, we'll shout, and then it dies down. That's what I'm saying. We are a very forgiving set of people. And when it comes to the issue of religion, when it involves a tribal person, when it actually involves someone from a church or someone from a same religion, I think we just turn a blind eye. Recently, it's just the issue of politics, like the election now. Okay, maybe just because the president now, maybe it's not from my tribe, or the president is from my tribe, or the candidate that's contesting is from my tribe. So I cannot actually see that this is not good. I should not support something like this. So all the noise we actually making during the NSAS, we're going to change. I see so many people that when it was during election, so many people that were we are going to get our PVC, we are going to get our PVC. When it was election time, and then a Yoruba person came out from this side, and then someone from the east came out from this side, and someone from the north came out. People were, all the people that were shouting and shouting and shouting, you could actually see people say the same things. And now, where are we moving forward as a country? It doesn't even make sense because I still want to emphasize the fact that we need to be very resilient. Resilience in the fact that we need to speak against this thing consistently, and not the fact that maybe if after some time you just like keep quiet and then it passes. I'm very sure if something like what the Senate president said that time, ordinary Nigerians can break or something like that. If it was in an advanced country, I think they would have called for him to resign, because it's actually a very careless and callous statement. Like, you actually belittling the citizens, like the people that voted you. It's actually like out of order. Like, till today, that speech still pains me. Like, it still pains me, because I'm like, how is it that Nigerians actually like just let something like this slide? What can we do? And then the issue of, I also have another issue, like the issue of minimum wage now in Nigeria. They're talking about like...
you have to round up now, because time is of the essence. Yes. You have like 50 seconds left.
Yes, the issue of minimum wage now. I am actually like, it's a very funny thing that everyone is talking about minimum wage. And then this minimum wage does not reflect the national interest. Like, they're talking about government workers, and they're talking about people working for government, increasing their salaries. So what about people that are not working for government? Don't they deserve to be part of the minimum wage that's being put forward? Minimum wage should cut across every person in the country. Nigeria needs to learn that we need this minimum wage so that the life and standard of lives of people can improve. It doesn't have to be just government workers, because most of these people, they don't even do anything. They just go to the government offices and they sit down. And then at the end of the month, they get money. But what people are actually like laborers working, they don't get their wages. It's actually very sad. I think I just want to end that there should actually like be a platform being created under the obedience movement for some of these things, like issues like decisions about Nigerian labor, issues about calling out politicians, issues about so many things that we are facing that we just talk about on Twitter, or we just talk about on Instagram and Facebook, that these issues should constantly be reminded that people need to do the right thing. People need to stop pressing corruption, and people need to stop pressing when people steal things. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. Aisha, do you want to react to that? Do you have any answers to that?
Yeah, okay. Is that the last one, I hope?
Yes, it's the last question, guys.
Okay.
That was the last question.
Okay.
Question.
Thank you so much. I think on the issue of the request of you writing a book, my email address is aishayesufu@gmail.com. The way I write my name, rather. So if you check my X handle, the way I spell my name, just no any space @gmail.com. So send me an email, and then we'll look at scheduling an appropriate time that we can sit down and talk, and I'll answer the questions that you have. So you've unpacked so many things on this whole thing, and I will start on the issue of the ways corruption is being celebrated. Honestly, it's a very the societal values, our values have really, honestly, really gone down. And the way it is right now is going to go down further if Nigeria doesn't stand up and nip this whole thing at the bud. Right now, we are talking about certificate forgery. Like I think I did a video some other days ago. I said, look, if Nigerians allow this whole forgery case of Tinubu to slide and go away, then it actually owes Ms. Oma an apology, and not just an apology, but also a scholarship, and give her a subject of whatever she wants to do, so that if we want to be mad, let's all be mad openly and accept the madness as, okay, we are crazy people, where values don't matter, things don't matter, people can just behave anyhow. It's also part of the things where in terms of religion, how religion has been bastardized, and also how religion has been used to keep people in shackles and in bondage. You see, most times, that's why for me, I call them religious rulers. I don't call them religious leaders. I always say to people like Martin Luther King, I mean, they were religious rulers. People like Malcolm X, they were religious rulers. They spoke for the people. They fought against oppression. Here, what we have is that that a lot of, that fraternization between the political rulers, and also the religious rulers. You find out that people will literally steal money. They even work, or they will call it grace, like you did mention grace. They will tell you to pay tithes. People will pay tithes. People will pay sadaqah. The pastor is probably telling you that, oh no, whatever, this is what you sow. This is the miracle you've been expecting. Then the malam is telling that person that, oh no, if you go for Umrah, just go for Umrah, all your sins will be wiped away. But without forgetting the fact that the sins, any sin between man and God in Islam, and that's in Islam. Now I don't know whether it's the same in other religions. Sin between man and God will forgive. Ask for forgiveness, man, woman, God will forgive you. You sin against God, He will forgive you. And that's why I'm so surprised when people carry other people's matter on their head, on what people are doing when it comes to their relationship with God. They and God, they will settle it. But the sin that you commit against your fellow man, God will not forgive it. Is that fellow man or woman that you committed that sin against, or you wrong, that is going to forgive you? So when you stolen the wealth of the people, how is God forgiving you for the wealth of the people that you stole? It's the people's wealth that you stole. You didn't steal the God's own wealth where it is. Yes, God owns everything, but this one is the one that is particularly that God had assigned for the people, and then you steal it, and then one malam somewhere is telling you that you should go and do Umrah, that your sins will be forgiven. But that is what they do, and these are people who are supposed to be upstanding in the society. It takes a whole lot of things. The impunity that has been going on is also part of it, and also that religion. On the issue of the Senate president that you talked about, calling people ordinary people, and all sorts of things that they do. When people stand up, the next thing you begin to hear, can't you forgive? Even God forgives this, that. And I'm always thinking, when people are telling me something, I say, look, God laid down rules and regulations. God laid down punishment for things. Crime is stealing. There's a punishment for stealing that is laid down. So what is it that they keep talking about? Oh, we should forget and move on. But I think what is most critical is that when there is that governance, when there's rule of law, when nobody is above the rule of law, and it has to start from the top. It's in Nigeria that somebody will steal a phone. They will now go and carry tire. They want to burn the person. They want to kill the person. They will lynch the person. They'll set the person on fire. But when somebody steals billions of naira, then they are celebrating the person. So it's almost as if stealing is not a crime in Nigeria. What is a crime in Nigeria is stealing small, and that's a big problem. We must get to a place where we have rule of law that is applicable to everyone, not just to certain people, where nobody is above the law and everybody is punished. And all of this must start at the top. It can't start at the bottom. If it starts at the top, this corruption, whether we like, before we know what's happening, definitely it's going to go away. Just to talk about briefly on the issue of minimum wage, I've always talked about the issue of minimum wage, even when what's our union worker? The Nigerian, what do you call it? TUC and Co. What do you call them now? Our workers union, when they go on strike and stuff like that. So look, most times,
labor union.
Yeah, labor union. Thank you so much. So when labor union are going on strike and stuff like that, they're always thinking about minimum wage. But when it comes to issue of governance, they are never there. And we've had a dearth in issue of labor unionism, in student unionism and all of that. Today we have students going to go and sit down with presidential candidates or political candidates, the president in office, and clapping for him. Even like 2019, they were going to see the president. Meanwhile, ASU had been on strike for almost a year. So everything has just been bastardized, politicized. It's just not what it used to be. Normally, trade unions they shape countries. They ensure that they put the government on its toes. Even when it comes to the press, also are supposed to do that. But today's press, they are nowhere to be found. They are always shivering. They are rather in the pockets of politicians and all of that. So these are major problems that we have in our country, and it will take a lot. That's why I'm saying to everybody, everybody's hand is needed on deck. Don't think that you can't do anything. And look, like the obedient movement is like almost like a mirror of the EndSARS protest, where there are no leaders. There is no one leader. It's horizontal leadership. People are doing their own things. You see, the people have taken on that fight, doing the things that they can. If there's any place where you feel you can, there's a niche that is not being covered, that you can cover it, by all means, look for like minds together and start something and be on it. I always say that a movement, as long as everybody is not inconsequential in a movement, then it's not a movement. So this is a movement where everybody is valid, everybody can do their thing in their own little way and get it done and be heard. And so let's all look at all the different things that we need to do. On the issue of the minimum wage, is that governance is very important. If you take care of governance, that's what the main thing is. It's not about 30,000, 100,000 and all of that. If we have a good quality education, primary, secondary, free, that people can send their children to, they don't need to be looking for money to for school fees. The minimum wage wouldn't be as tough as it is right now. If people can have, they can move freely, they have good transport system, they don't have to use their cars. A lot of people will be able to use that. Housing, the kind of healthcare system that people are getting. These are ways that are going to mitigate the effect of not having the issue of the minimum wage. But when it comes to the labor union, they are more interested in just that minimum wage. When it comes to issue of governance, they are never as interested in it as they are supposed to be. And I think these are things that we all have to focus on. Just for me to round up and say to everybody, thank you for listening, and also for the host, thank you for Aspilos Foundation. Thank you for inviting me, Obianuju. Thank you, and my co-guest, I'm sure network, so he dropped off. Thank you all for listening to me, and just to say to every one of us that let's continue to put the families of our police brutality victims in our prayers. Let's continue to fight for that justice for them. Remember, prayers without faith without work. They say, what did they put in? Prayers without work is dead. Yeah. So we must put in everything to get that justice. And one of the things is that let's not think that we cannot be victims. At every moment in our life, let's keep thinking about we can be the next victim. That's the way I live my life every day. Some people sometimes say, oh, you're too passionate about it. Because I don't want to be the next person. I see myself as I might be the next person or my loved one or something. So let's do something about it now and end it. That's the best way that everyone cannot be victims. And I think most of us, Nigeria will do every one of us, you understand? Nigeria don't send anybody. We are all victims waiting to happen. Yesterday's victims were once survivors. Today's victims were yesterday's survivors. And tomorrow's victims will be today's survivors. The question I always ask is, who is next? The person that you see is not because they are not praying that there will be victims. All those things that malams, pastors, whatever tell you that, oh, you are covered, you are this. When that victimhood comes, it doesn't see anybody. It doesn't see that one. It will happen when it happens. So it's better for us to prevent it and let's not become victims. And one thing also that we must always remember is that those who have been killed will not be killed again. The next people to be killed are those of us that are alive. And so we must do everything to ensure that the killings, the murder, everything, they all stop. The injustice, they stop. We must unite. Let's put our religion aside. We are all facing the same poverty all over Nigeria. There is, whether your tribe is more superior, whether your religion is more superior, it has not put food on anybody's table. It has not reduced the fact that we become victims, whether to police brutality or anything. It has not taken Nigerian GDP to number one in the world. It has not put us educationally at number one. It has not increased the value of our passport. So all this issue of, oh, my religion is better, my tribe is this, let's just drop it by the wayside. Go into your house and go and do. Your religion is your private business. Your tribe is your private business. I always ask people, what if your parents call you tomorrow and say that you were adopted? You are not the tribe that you thought you were. You are the tribe that maybe you hate or you don't like or whatever. What will you then say? At the end of the day, we have a country. For me, one Nigeria, I always say, is not sacrosanct. What is sacrosanct is good governance, accountability, and transparency, development, good quality education. Today, we have a country where access to good quality education is dependent on the economic status of one's family, and that, for me, is a crime. Let's work for a Nigeria that all of us when we have 24/7 electricity, when we have good economy, when we are no longer the poverty poverty capital of the world, where we are number 5 in the world, where our GDP is amongst the top 5 GDPs in the world. When we have things that are working, we have Nigeria we can all proud of, then we can begin to talk of whether we are Muslims or Christians, whether we are pagans or we don't even believe in God or whatever it is. But for now, we have things that unite us. All our problems unite us. So let's come together and work on it. And finally, I would just say, may the souls of our countrymen and women who were just simply fighting to be alive that were to be alive that were killed, may their souls rest in peace, and may God continue to give their our families and loved ones the fortitude to bear the loss. Nigeria must work in our lifetime by the grace of God, and let's all do everything we can to ensure that it does work in our lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that fiery speech and for that wonderful closing, Aisha. And yes, like Aisha said, the fight for Nigeria is a collective fight. It's not for one person alone. And we must all do our bit. You might think that your voice is too small, or you might think that you need to have a big platform to be able to do it. I'm assuring you that you do not. What you just need to have is your conviction and your passion for Nigeria that works for you and that works for everybody. So envision the Nigeria that you want and work towards it in your own small spaces as much as you can. Thank you for joining us on this space. It's been 2 hours of intense talking and conversation, and I'm thankful and grateful for all of you that joined. Activism Foundation always have this kind of conversation through our Emerging Citizen platform. So we do invite guest speakers who talk about burning issues in our politics, in another walks of life. And we always love to engage with the youth. So follow Activism Foundation and look out for our next upcoming space. I'm so sorry that we can't have everybody talk, but we hope that you are able to take something from this space. And if you have more questions, of course, our DM is open. And I can assure you, Aisha has an open door policy. So always ask her on her timeline to reply. And now she has given her email address out. So maybe if you send an email and if she has the opportunity, she'll be able to reply. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Everyone, thank you so much. 2 hours we've been talking. For me, when it comes to issue of Nigeria, I'm always very passionate about it. And it's always about what can we do to make Nigeria better. I'm not going to, I always believe that I can't hand over this problem to my kids. No way. My children are not going to be facing this problem and be on the streets and I would rather be the one on the street. Let them be living their baby girl and baby boy life, and so all our children. And so when I'm talking about my children, I'm not just talking about my biological children. I'm talking about anybody that at least I'm old enough to give birth to. If you're 35, I'm actually old enough to give birth to a 35-year-old. Some of my mates do actually have 35-year-olds as their children. But that's by the way anyway. But it's just that we can't allow our children to come and be facing all of this nonsense that we have in this country. And one of the things that keeps me passionate is that, and I always say this, I would never, no matter what Nigeria throws at me, I will never give up on Nigeria. Nobody called me to come and start speaking on that. But I will tell people, I'm not even speaking for you. Everybody has more to speak for. So I'm speaking for myself and for the unborn generation, the way I wish others had spoke for me before I came to Nigeria. If before I was born to Nigeria, there were people that thought about me and fixed Nigeria, I won't be in this mess, having to be on the street and say, oh, please don't kill me. I'll be doing climate change, this, that. Why is the sky blue kind of a protest, not this one that I'm protesting for basic things. But here, there are people who didn't think about me before I was born. So I want to think about the next generation before. For me, it's about my conviction. It's about what I want to do. But this is what I want to do. The Nigeria of today, it's not something that I'm like, oh, that's why I always say to people, people say to me, do you want to do advocacy? I say to them, look, do it because you want to do it, not because you have to do it. Because if you're doing it because you have to do it, or something needs to be done, nobody is doing, let me go and do it. Then when people don't praise you, you'll be angry that people are not praising you. You'll be waiting for validation. But they are doing it because you want to do it, not because you have to. You don't even care about whether people see you, they insult you, they don't insult you, they value you. You are not even interested. You're focused because that's your passion. That's what gives you joy. For me, I just say I refuse to be voiceless. I refuse. Even sometimes my parents, my mom will be like, you've spoken too much and go and rest now. You know Nigeria. I'm like, no. Even sometimes I'm afraid, or let them not kill you. I tell my mom, she said, you know, you are my first child. I said to my mom, I said, I would rather you lose your first child than me lose my own first child, because I'm my first child. I mean, if I die, I die. With my own children, I need to also ensure they have a Nigeria that is enabling for everybody, not just for a few, not because of your status or your money or anything. Then Nigeria works for you. Then if you don't have everything, Nigeria doesn't work for you. I once didn't have anything, and Nigeria didn't work for me. It was crazy, and I don't want any child, because I was angry at the adults at that time. I don't want any child to go through all of that, and it pains me that a lot of children are going through all of that. So it's about doing it because you want to do it. So you don't seek for validation. You don't wait. You do your own thing. On this Nigeria matter, we die here. We die here. No retreat, no surrender. We don't go anywhere. Nobody is anybody's slave. I will not be anybody. So there are some people that should be in government, that they should be respected. Their father. Respect, you kill the person there. We are all citizens. We are all stakeholders in this Nigeria. It's you that you are in government or you are in office. You are the ones that are supposed to be respecting citizens, because the citizens are the CEOs of this country. The citizens are the owners of the country. They are your employers, now not your employees. This one that Nigerians have turned this upside down. We will return it upside down. All I know is that no giving up. Giving up is not on the table. Giving up is not an option. We'll continue to fight for this country until we get it right. And Nigeria must work in our lifetime. You know, when I started saying this, even I think as far back as like 2014, 15, people were like, you know, this Nigeria, there's no matter what you do, it cannot work. It cannot work in our lifetime. I said, well, I don't know about your lifetime, but me, by the grace of God, it's going to work in my lifetime. And I'm not waiting for anybody to make it work. I will do what I need to do to make it work. And that's what, and I believe I have the capacity to, and I believe, yes, I can. The people that are there that are giving Nigeria bad governance, they don't have two heads. So those, for me, that I want Nigeria to work to, I have the same one head that they have, and I'm going to use it, and I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to get frustrated. I'm not going to, if you like, insult me for money tonight, now you're mad to get you, they take and insult, use them as you take one user, now you get your team. Me, Shana, me get my coconut head, now me get and say, I go focus on this Nigeria, nobody will take that away. So thank you so much for listening. For those of you that have stayed, thank you so much for being here. Let's continue to work to that beautiful country that we want, countries that we look and we envy them, countries that we see what they're doing. They didn't get there to us. It took citizens coming together and say enough is enough, that they're going to put in the work for things to happen. So of course, if we also come together, if we also put in the work, we will get that country that we all have been yearning for. So thank you so much, and bye-bye.